This is the third video we have done with respect to sizes of buildings, and here we will focus solely on the tallest buildings and structures of the world of Tolkien, Middle-earth. Some of these here are official sizes given by the man himself in his books, while some are estimated to the best of our knowledge as by the descriptions in the books, and others which are quite iconic and cannot be passed off are estimated as by the movies of Peter Jackson. Let's get to them. At 15 we have Dol Guldur. Dol Guldur, also known as the Hill of Sorcery, was one of Sauron's strongholds, sitting on the highest point of a highland in the southwestern part of Mirkwood. Originally it was called Amon Lang, meaning the Naked Hill, because no trees grew on its summit. In The Hobbit, it is referred to as the Dark Tower or Dark Hole of the Necromancer in southern Mirkwood. In Peter Jackson's movies, we actually see it, and based on its appearance, it seems to stand about 200 feet tall or 61 meters. At 14 we have the Tower of Cirith Ungol. So the Tower of Cirith Ungol, or also known as the Spider's Cleft in Sindarin, was a fortress on the left side of the pass of Cirith Ungol in the Evilduat Mountains near the western border of Mordor. From the west, we'd only really see the round topmost turret, which was supported by 3 tiers with pointed bastions on a mountain ledge. The lowest tier had a 30-foot high wall, as was stated in the books The Return of the King. In the movie though, some scenes give the impression that the tower might be about 200 to 210 feet tall, though that's up for debate. At 13 we have the Hornberg. So the Hornberg is a fortress built by Gondor, but later used by the Rohirrim, and sat at the western edge of Gondor's old province of Calenardhorn, on a rocky outcrop the Rohirrim called the Horn Rock, which is situated in Helm's Deep. The deeping wall, which protects the fortress, was originally said to be around 20 feet tall, but in the movies, it looks to be much higher, probably over twice its height. The Tower of the Hornberg itself was shown to be rising around 230 feet or 70 meters at its tallest point in the film. Number 12. The Towers of the Teeth, or the Black Gates. So the Towers of the Teeth were the 2 towers that stood next to the Black Gates of Mordor. The tower on the western side was called Nargos, and the tower on the eastern side was called Cargos. Like the others, we can only show you the size estimate from the movie The Return of the King, whereby the height of the Black Gates were first calculated to be 50 feet tall, and with the concept art for the entire set of structures, we can clearly estimate the towers to be a bit taller than a Hornberg. Number 11. The Gates of Arabor. So the front gate, or the Gates of Arabor, the entrance to the Dwarf Kingdom under the Lonely Mountain, was a massive arch entrance leading to a stone-paved road wide enough for a large group to march through. In the Battle of the Five Armies movie, you can see how huge it is when the dwarves are near it. Based on that, the gate is estimated to be around 400 feet tall or 122 meters. Definitely a grand entrance with 2 gigantic dwarven statues that would have easily been at least 150 feet tall. Number 10. Orthanc. So Orthanc, or more well known as the Tower of Eisen God, where Saruman lived and commanded his orc armies, was actually built by the Dunedain during the Second Age. It is made from 4 massive welded stone pillars that look like a single black spike rising from the middle of the Ring of Isengard. According to the 2 towers, the book, the tower stands just over 500 feet tall, making it one of the most imposing structures in that part of Middle-earth. Number 9. The Temple of Morgoth. So the Temple of Morgoth, or Melkor, in Armenelos, the capital of Numenor, was an enormous structure built near the end of the Second Age. It was dedicated to the worship of Melkor and was one of the most imposing buildings of its time. According to the Silmarillion, the temple was a round massive building, 500 feet tall and 500 feet wide, with walls 50 feet thick at the base. It was topped by a huge silver dome, which likely added another 30 to 100 feet to its height. Number 8. The Argonaut. The Argonaut, also called the Pillar of the Kings or the Gate of Kings, was a famous landmark on Gondor's northern border along the river Anduin. These were 2 gigantic rock-carved statues of Isildur and Anarion, standing on either side of the river Anduin and facing northwards. Unlike Orthanc or the Temple of Morgoth, their size wasn't mentioned in the books, but they were described as immense or gigantic. In the Fellowship of the Ring movie, screenshots suggest that the statues are about 200 meters or 656 feet tall as per our estimates. Number 7. Minas Morgul. So Minas Morgul, once known as Minas Ithil, was the twin city of Minas Tirith before it fell into Sauron's forces in the Third Age. It guarded the Morgul pass between Ithilien and Mordor, perched on a rocky outcrop in a narrow Morgul valley. Its highest point was the infamous Tower of the Moon, later known as the Tower of Dark Sorcery, after it became a foul, evil place. In the movies, it is depicted as being around 220 meters or 721 feet in height. Number 6. Gbat Fortress. So Gbat, as seen in the movie The Hobbit: The Battle of the Five Armies, was a huge fortress in the Misty Mountains. It housed a massive orc army and swarms of bats. In the books, Gbat was more of a sacred mountain with caverns revered by dwarves but later taken over by orcs. From the film's visuals, we first estimated the size of a mound that was near it. We did it from a screenshot of Bolg on a warg when he was on top of the mound, and then extrapolating the mound size to the visual with the fortress. The structure appears to be 240 meters or around 787 feet tall. Number 5. Minas Tiit. So Minas Tiit, the Tower of the God, was the city of Gondor and its capital from the Third Age of 1640 onwards. Built as a fortress on a steep hill, the city had 7 concentric levels, each with its own gate. The city of Minas Tirith was originally known as Minas Honor. The topmost level held the citadel, which was stated to be 700 feet above the plains. The citadel included the court of the fountain and the Tower of Ecthelion, bringing the city's total height to 1,000 feet, as the tower was 300 feet in height. Number 4. Barad-Dur. So the Tower of Barad-Dur, or the Fortress of Barad-Dur, or the Dark Tower, was Sauron's main fortress in Mordor, dominating the plateau of Gorgoroth. It was built on a massive mountain base above endless pits and was an incredibly imposing structure. The fortress had layer upon layer of walls and battlements, with towers as tall as hills. Its steel and adamant gates opened into sprawling courtyards with deep dungeons and pitch-black prisons. At the top of the tower was the Window of the Eye, where Sauron could survey his domain. In the movie universe, Barad-Dur is depicted as 1,500 meters or 4,921 feet in height. Number 3, we have the Tower of Avalon. The Tower of Avalon was a beautiful structure on the island of Tol Eressëa, overlooking the haven of Avalon. It housed the Master Palantir, a seeing stone of immense power. Sailors in Numenor heading towards Aman could catch their first glimpse of the tower on the horizon before seeing the rest of Aman. After Numenor's downfall, Tol Eressëa, along with the Undying Lands, was removed from the physical world. However, the Palantir of Elosterion in the Emin Buried was said to still allow its users to sometimes see the Tower of Avalon across the vast distance. At number 2, we have the Fortress of Angan. So Angan, Melkor's fortress, was originally built by his minions, including Sauron, as an outpost for his main lair, Utumno, in the early days of the world. It was a labyrinth of hidden chambers and deep pits that even the Valar couldn't really fully uncover. Above the ground, it was connected to the peaks of Tangorodrim, towering volcanic mountains believed to be over 10 kilometers tall, or 6.2 miles. From these peaks, there were channels and chimneys that descended from the top to the depths of Angband, making them one of the tallest structures in the world, and creating a fortress that was as terrifying as it was massive. So there are also many notable mentions of structures and buildings that are just too vague to have a guess size estimate, as we have done for many of these here. There is the Tower of Turgon on Gondolin, then the towers of the Tower Hills built by Gil-galad for Elendil. There are also the dwelling places of the Valar, which might be the biggest of all, which includes the likes of the halls of Mandos, the mansions of Aule, the high palace of Manwë on Ilmarin, and even the halls of Orome. But these are kinda too hard or maybe impossible to estimate the sizes. And finally we come to number 1, the Two Lamps. The two lamps of the Valar, Illuin and Ormal, were enormous pillars of light that stood on the far north and south of the world during the Spring of Arda. They were crafted by Aule and filled with the light by Varda, then sanctioned by Manwë. Yavanna requested them to nurture the plants and seeds she had sown across the world. These massive pillars were said to be taller than any mountains that existed in the latter ages, even dwarfing Tangorodrim and the peaks that formed after the reshaping of the world following Beleriand's sinking. And so that brings their size to maybe above 15 kilometers. Anyway, with that we come to the end of the video. Do hit that like button for support and also subscribe if you haven't. Till the next time, take care fam.